Hey, my dear listeners, how are you all doing? Welcome to our little corner of heartwarming stories. Today, I've brought a tale that will deeply move you. It's about Lily and Ryan, two childhood friends who grew up together. He became a millionaire businessman, she a simple woman with a giant heart. Until one day, Ryan came to her with a proposition that would change everything. Lily, I need an heir to maintain my empire. Would you help me? And do you know what she did? She accepted on the spot, but not for the money. She had a much deeper reason, something she'd kept hidden for years, something he never imagined. Tell me here in the comments, what are you doing while you're listening? Are you at work? Commuting? Enjoying that afternoon tea? Making lunch? Let me know how you're experiencing these moments with us. If you're already curious to discover Lily's secret, give us a loving like and settle in. Because this story has breathtaking twists and turns. Let's begin then. The Heir's Secret, a childhood love story. In the neighborhood of Belmont, Massachusetts, two families lived in completely different realities, separated by just a few blocks, but by a social chasm that seemed insurmountable. On Oakwood Lane, at number 247, lived the Davies family, in a simple single-story house with an iron gate that always creaked when someone entered. Lily was 7 years old when she met Ryan, and even at that age, her large, expressive brown eyes captured the attention of anyone who looked at her. Her curly hair cascaded over her shoulders, always tied with colorful elastic bands her mother bought at Mr. Jones's corner store. Her father, John Davies, worked as a mechanic in a garage in Alston, earning about $2,000 a month, while her mother, Mary, sewed baby clothes from home, bringing in an extra $500 when she had good orders. On the other side of the neighborhood, on Maplewood Drive, stood the Sterling Mansion, an imposing three-story building with enormous gardens that spanned an entire block. Arthur Sterling, the family patriarch, had built an empire in civil construction, with companies spread throughout Massachusetts and contracts reaching millions of dollars a year. His grandson, Ryan, was an 8-year-old boy with dark hair, always neatly cut, at the most expensive salon in the neighborhood, blue eyes that contrasted with his fair skin, and a posture that already showed the refined education he received at St. Andrew's Academy in Chestnut Hill, where tuition cost $3,000 a month. Fate brought these two children together on a sunny Thursday afternoon in late March 2010 at Willow Creek Park. Lily had gone there with her grandmother, Grandma Helen, a 70-year-old woman who always took her to play after she got out of her public school, Northside Elementary. Ryan was with his nanny, Ms. Evans, a 60-year-old woman who had worked for the Sterling family for over 15 years, earning $2,500 a month to look after the boy on weekends when he visited his maternal grandmother. "Can I play with you?" Lily asked when she saw Ryan alone on the slide, fiddling with the iPhone his father had given him as a gift for his 8th birthday. She wore a simple floral dress her mother had lovingly sewn, well-worn sneakers, but such a genuine and bright smile that Ryan immediately looked up from his device. "Of course, I'm Ryan. And you?" he replied, putting his phone in the pocket of his designer shorts. "Lily, you're not from this neighborhood, are you? I've never seen you at school," she said, approaching and sitting beside him on the colorful slide. "I study in Chestnut Hill, at St. Andrew's. My grandmother lives nearby, on Maplewood Drive," Ryan explained, trying not to sound superior. Lily didn't quite know what Chestnut Hill was, but she found his precise way of speaking interesting, as if he'd memorized the words from a book. From that day on, whenever Ryan came to visit his maternal grandmother, Grandma Margaret, who lived in a simpler house than his parents' mansion, but still comfortable, The two would meet at the park. Lily discovered that he knew things she had never heard of. Distant places he had traveled, like Paris and London. Strangely named foods he ate at expensive restaurants downtown. Ryan discovered that Lily knew how to play games he had never done in his life. Hopscotch, tag, hide and seek. And that she laughed in such a pure, genuine way that it made him want to laugh too, which didn't happen much in his routine full of commitments at home. My mom said that when I grow up, I'm going to work at my grandfather's company. I'm going to own everything, Ryan said one afternoon as they sat on the park seesaw, rocking slowly. What about you? What are you going to be when you grow up? He asked, genuinely curious about the dreams of the girl who had become his favorite friend. Lily thought for a few seconds, swinging her feet that still didn't reach the ground from the seesaw. I want to be a teacher, to teach kids like us. My mom said it's a beautiful profession, that you help people learn new things. She replied, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. You could work at my company when you grow up, then we'd work together forever, Ryan suggested, not quite understanding why that idea made him so happy. Lily's heart skipped a different beat in that moment, a strange and good feeling that she was too young to understand, but which she kept in her chest like a treasure. The months passed, and the two forged a friendship that was pure and true, without the complications that the adult world brought. Lily anxiously awaited Thursday and Sunday afternoons, when she knew Ryan would appear at the park. She would even dream of him during the week, inventing new games to show him when they met, and she always felt a pang in her chest when he had to leave at the end of the afternoon. Ryan also began to feel something different. He, who had all the expensive toys, all the video games, felt that he was truly happy only when he was with that curly-haired girl who made him forget everything and simply be a child. Lily, I have to go, Ryan said one December afternoon, his eyes full of tears he tried to hide, because men in the Sterling family weren't allowed to cry. My dad got me a spot at a boarding school in Switzerland. He said there I'll learn to be a real businessman, that I'll prepare to take over the company. He explained, trying to sound as mature as adults spoke to him, but his voice came out choked. Lily felt her world collapse around her. At 8 years old, she already knew she liked Ryan in a different way than she liked her other friends from school or the street. But you'll come back, right? She asked, her voice trembling, holding back tears. Of course I'll come back. And when I do, will you be here waiting for me? Ryan asked, holding her small hand in his. Always. I'll wait for you always, she replied, and in that moment made a silent promise in her heart that she would carry for the rest of her life, not yet knowing how much those words would mean in the future. The farewell took place on a warm January morning in 2011 at Boston Logan International Airport. Lily wasn't there, of course. Her family didn't even have a car for such a long and expensive trip to the airport. But Ryan carried in his suitcase a colorful beaded bracelet she had lovingly made for him, using the colors of the American flag, and a photo of the two of them that Ms. Evans had taken at the park on a particularly happy afternoon. Lily kept the blue metal toy car he had given her on their last day in her dresser drawer, along with the promise etched in her heart that one day he would return to reclaim the friendship they had built. And so began a separation that lasted 15 long years, but which never managed to erase the first love of two children who didn't yet know they were destined to meet again and discover that some feelings are too strong for time to destroy. Lily and Ryan's childhood bond is incredibly sweet. Do you believe their deep connection can truly withstand 15 years of separation and vastly different lives? What do you think will be their biggest challenge if they meet again? Share your predictions in the comments. 15 years later, in March 2023, Lily Davies walked down Newbury Street in downtown Boston, carrying a paper bag from Barnes & Noble with textbooks she had just bought to prepare for the following week's classes. At 23, she had become exactly what she dreamed of as a child, an early childhood education teacher at Northwood Elementary, a public school in the North End, where she earned $3,200 a month and loved every day of working with 4- and 5-year-olds. Her curly hair now reached her waist, always tied in a messy bun during classes, and those large brown eyes remained her trademark, shining every time she spoke about her little students. She lived in a cozy 2-bedroom apartment on Commonwealth Avenue in the North End, which she shared with her best friend Chloe, a nurse at Massachusetts General Hospital, paying $800 in rent each and splitting bills with the organization of someone who learned to live without luxury, but with dignity. That sunny Thursday afternoon, she was returning from her postgraduate course in psychopedagogy at Boston University, where she paid $600 a month with a scholarship she earned for academic merit, when she decided to step into the Gilded Bean Cafe on the corner of Newbury and Commonwealth for an iced cappuccino and to correct some art activities the children had done during the week. It was a place she had frequented for 2 years, ever since she discovered they made a special latte that cost only $6 and came with a cinnamon cookie that always reminded her of her childhood at her grandmother's house. As she looked for a table at the back of the cafe, always preferring the quieter corners to concentrate on her work, Lily heard a familiar male voice ordering a double espresso, no sugar, at the counter. Something in that deep, velvety voice made her stop in her tracks and look over her shoulder. And when her eyes met the man's back, wearing an immaculate navy suit that clearly cost more than her monthly salary, her heart pounded in a way it hadn't in years. Her hands began to tremble, her breathing became erratic, and for a moment she thought she might faint right there in the middle of the cafe. "Ryan?" she whispered softly, but he didn't hear over the noise of the espresso machine and the chatter of other customers. The man slowly turned to look for a table, and when his deep blue eyes met her brown ones, time simply stopped. 15 years dissolved in a single second, and there they were again, 2 children in a park, looking at each other as if the whole world was made just for them. The same connection, the same chemistry, the same feeling that they were finally complete. Ryan Sterling, at 24, had become exactly what destiny and his family planned for him, but in an even more impressive way than anyone expected. Graduating summa cum laude in business administration from Harvard University, with an MBA in business management from the London School of Economics, and a specialization in international markets from the Wharton School, he had taken over as vice president of Sterling Construction 2 years earlier, when he definitively returned to the U.S. after more than a decade studying at the best schools and universities in the world. His grandfather's company was now worth over $200 million, with contracts spread throughout the country and international projects in Latin America, and he earned $50,000 a month, plus profit sharing that easily reached $500,000 a year. Physically, he had become a man who commanded attention wherever he went. Tall, at 6 feet 1 inch, broad shoulders, perfectly tailored by his Italian Hermenegildo Zegna suit, dark hair always impeccably styled at the most expensive salon in Boston, and those intense blue eyes that now held a depth and intensity that didn't exist when he was a child. He lived in a 4,000 square foot penthouse in downtown Boston, which had cost $2.5 million and was decorated by one of the country's most famous architects. He drove a Mercedes-Benz S-Class, valued at $300,000, and frequented restaurants where a single meal cost what Lily earned in a week of work. "I can't believe it's you," Ryan said, dropping his cup on the counter without even caring that the coffee was spilling, and walking towards her with long, determined strides. Lily got up from the chair where she had just sat down, still in shock, and before she could say anything, or properly process what was happening. He enveloped her in a tight hug that lasted much longer than would be appropriate between two friends who had just reunited after 15 years. "Lily, my God, how beautiful you are," he said, his voice emotional in a way that completely surprised her. "You grew up and became an incredible woman, exactly how I imagined you would be." "You've changed a lot too," she replied, trying to hide how nervous she was, and how her heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. "When did you come back to the U.S.?" she asked, still processing his presence there, in the same simple cafe she frequented, as if the universe had conspired for that encounter. "2 years ago, I came back for good. Took over the family business, you know how it is. And you? Did you fulfill your dream of becoming a teacher?" Ryan asked, guiding her to a table in the corner, away from the other customers, as if he wanted privacy to talk to her. "Yes, I work at a public school nearby. I love what I do. Every day is a new discovery with the kids," Lily replied, putting her bag on the chair and trying to appear calmer than she really was. "Of course you do. You've always been special like that. Always knew exactly what you wanted from life," he said, and the affectionate way he spoke made her heart beat even faster. They sat down, and the next 2 hours passed like 15 minutes of pure magic. Ryan told her about his years in Switzerland, where he studied at the strict boarding school that prepared him for the business world, then about England and the United States, always studying and preparing to take over the family company, but also about how he felt a constant loneliness, as if he was always looking for something he couldn't find. "You know, Lily, I traveled the whole world, met incredible places, important people, learned several languages, but I always felt like something was missing," he said, stirring his 3rd cup of coffee he had ordered, just to have an excuse to stay there longer with her. "What do you mean?" she asked, genuinely curious, and trying not to show how much his every word affected her. "I never found anyone who made me laugh the way you made me laugh when we were kids. I never had conversations that truly meant something, that made me feel like I was myself, not the company heir or the sterling son," Ryan explained, looking directly into her eyes, in a way that made her feel like she was the only person in the world. Lily told him about her pedagogy degree at Boston College, which she had managed to pay for by working 3 different jobs, and with a scholarship she earned for having the best high school grades, about the children she taught, and how each had a unique personality that enchanted her every day, about how she managed to fulfill her dream of being a teacher, even coming from a humble family. "There's a girl in my class, Sophia, who reminds me of you when you were little," she said, smiling affectionately as she spoke of her student. "Why?" Ryan asked, curious and touched by the comparison. "She asks questions that have no answers, you know? Like, why doesn't the sky fall on our heads? Or, why do adults get sad when they should be happy? And she has blue eyes that sparkle with curiosity, just like yours when you were a kid," Lily recounted, and Ryan laughed in that genuine, hearty way she remembered perfectly from childhood. "You were always special to me too," she said, when he commented on how good it was to talk to her again, but she didn't have the courage to tell him the whole truth about the love she had carried for 15 years, about how she could never fall in love with any other man because they all paled in comparison to his memory. "Lily, I know it might be strange after so long, but would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow? There's a restaurant in the South End that I'd love for you to see, or, if you prefer, we can go somewhere simpler, where you feel comfortable," Ryan asked, leaning forward on the table and showing a vulnerability she didn't expect to see in him. "I don't know if that's a good idea, Ryan. We live in very different worlds now," she replied hesitantly, afraid of getting hurt. "Please, Lily, just dinner, as 2 childhood friends who reunited. I promise I'll pick you up at your place and take you back safely, and I also promise it won't be awkward or uncomfortable," he insisted, and there was something in his eyes she couldn't resist. Lily looked at him and saw not the millionaire businessman in an expensive suit and a watch that cost more than she earned in a year. But the 8-year-old boy, who had promised to return to her at the park 15 years ago. All right, but nothing too fancy, please. I don't have clothes for very elegant places. She gave in, already regretting it a little, but unable to say no to him. Whatever you want, Lily. I just want to spend time with you. Get to know the incredible woman you've become, Ryan said. And the smile that appeared on his face was exactly like the smile of the child she had known and secretly loved. When they said goodbye at the cafe door, with the sun already setting and painting the sky orange, Ryan held her hand a little longer than would be normal between friends who had just reunited. See you tomorrow, Lily, and thank you for waiting for me, even without knowing I would come back, he said, gently squeezing her fingers before letting go. What do you mean, waiting? She asked, confused, but her heart racing from his touch. I don't know. I was always sure that when I came back to the US, our paths would cross again, that you would still be here, that we would find each other. He explained, reluctantly letting go of her hand and leaving a warmth she felt all the way home. She stood on the busy Newberry Street sidewalk, watching him get into a car that cost more than she earned in 10 years of work, and felt that her quiet, carefully organized life had just been turned upside down, in a way that scared and thrilled her at the same time. Lily and Ryan have reconnected after 15 years, and it's clear there's still a spark. What do you think Ryan's true feelings are beyond simple friendship? And how do you think Lily's past love for him will influence her decisions going forward? Share your thoughts in the comments. 2 weeks after that first dinner at the President's Table restaurant in Alston, which had transformed into a sequence of almost daily dates in increasingly simple and cozy places Lily chose, Ryan arrived at her apartment on a Friday night with a different expression on his face. She already knew that look well from childhood. It was the same one he had when he was worried about something important and didn't know how to talk about it. They had planned to watch a movie at her place, something that had become routine since she said she preferred quiet nights to the expensive restaurants he frequented, where she felt out of place and observed by other customers. You're acting strange today, Lily said, pouring the Merlot he had brought. A $200 bottle that cost much more than she spent on drinks in a whole month, but which he chose carefully, thinking about what she might like. Did something happen at the company? She asked, noticing how he paced the small living room, unable to sit down, nervously fiddling with his gold Rolex watch, which was worth more than her car. She wore simple jeans she had bought on sale and a basic white blouse, but to Ryan, she was more beautiful than any elegant woman he had ever seen at the high society events he was obligated to attend. Ryan remained in absolute silence for a few minutes, pacing the small but cozy living room of the apartment that Lily had decorated with so much affection. The walls were decorated with colorful drawings her students made, which she kept as treasures. Photographs of her family in simple frames, bought from a street vendor, and some books piled on a plywood shelf she had bought from a used furniture store for $50. The contrast between that simple yet loving environment and his modern, cold penthouse in downtown Boston, with designer furniture and expensive artworks, was striking, and it made him question many things about his own life. Lily, I need to talk about something very serious with you, he finally said, stopping in front of the small window that overlooked the busy street, watching ordinary people going about their normal lives. It's about the company, about my family, about my future, and perhaps about our future too. The grave and emotionally charged tone of his voice made her immediately turn off the old 24-inch television and sit on the edge of the simple sofa, paying full attention to what he was trying to say. You remember how I always said I would inherit everything from my grandfather one day? Ryan asked, turning to look directly at her with blue eyes full of an anguish she had never seen before. Yes, I remember. You said you would own the most important company in the country, she replied, trying to lighten the heavy, charged atmosphere that had settled in the room. And isn't that what's happening? Aren't you vice president of Sterling Construction? Lily asked, genuinely confused about where the conversation was going, but already feeling a bad premonition in her stomach. I'm vice president, but it's not that simple, Ryan replied, running his hands through his hair in a nervous gesture she remembered perfectly from childhood. My grandfather Arthur is 82, and last week the doctors at Boston Medical Center gave him the final diagnosis. He has pancreatic cancer, stage 4, and has at most 1 year to live. Lily immediately got up from the sofa and went to him, placing her small hand on his strong arm, in an instinctive and natural gesture of comfort she always made when someone she loved was suffering. Ryan, I'm so sorry. I know how much you love your grandfather, how much he means to you, she said, with all the sincerity in the world, remembering how he spoke of his grandfather with admiration when they were children. The problem isn't just his illness, Lily. There's the matter of the inheritance, which is much more complicated than I imagined. He continued, covering her hand with his large, warm one, feeling the comfort that only she could give. According to the will he made 5 years ago, I can only officially take over the presidency of the company and inherit the entire estate if I have a legitimate heir. A child who guarantees the continuation of the Sterling lineage and the family business. But that's easy to solve, she said without thinking, still not quite understanding what he was getting at. You're young, handsome, rich, intelligent. Any woman would be happy to marry you and have children. The expression on his face became even more serious and strained when she said that, and he moved a few steps away from her, as if those words had hurt him in some way. It's not that simple, Lily, Ryan replied, his voice growing lower and filled with a pain she didn't understand. Why isn't it simple? Lily asked, starting to become genuinely concerned about the direction the conversation was taking. Ryan walked to the table where the wine was, poured a generous glass for himself, and drank it all at once, as if he needed liquid courage to continue talking about the subject. Last week, along with my grandfather's exams, I had a complete medical checkup that I'd been putting off for months because of work, he said, avoiding her gaze and focusing on the empty glass. The results showed that I have a condition called severe azoospermia. It's a condition where... He stopped, took a deep breath, and forced the words out. Where I can't have children naturally. The chances are less than 1%. Where you can't have children, Lily completed, feeling her heart clench in a strange way. A mixture of sadness for him and something she couldn't quite identify. Because her friend Chloe was a nurse and always explained about various medical conditions during their evening conversations, she had already heard about this type of problem, but never imagined it could affect someone so close to her. Exactly. The best fertility specialist in Boston confirmed the diagnosis. Ryan walked back to her, but now keeping a physical and emotional distance that hadn't existed before. Lily, if I don't have an heir by the end of next year, when my grandfather passes away, my cousin Kevin will automatically take over the company. Everything my grandfather built over 60 years, everything my father worked to maintain and expand, will fall into the hands of someone who just wants to sell everything and divide the money among the cousins. But there are modern treatments, aren't there? In vitro fertilization, artificial insemination, all those technologies, she asked, still trying to process all the heavy information he was dumping on her. There are treatments, but the doctors at Fertility and Family Center, the best in the U.S., said that in my specific case, because of the severity of the condition, the chances of success are very low. Less than 5% chance of success, he explained, taking a deep breath and preparing for the most difficult part of the conversation. That's why I thought of a different alternative, a solution that could work, Ryan said, looking directly into her brown eyes, with an intensity that made her understand that something very important was coming. The silence that settled in the room was so heavy and laden with tension that Lily could clearly hear the cars passing on the street below, the voices of neighbors talking on the building stairs, even the annoying ticking of the wall clock that had been a gift from her mother when she moved into the apartment. "What kind of alternative?" she asked, her voice coming out softer than usual, already imagining she wouldn't like his answer at all. "Artificial insemination with genetic material from an anonymous donor who has similar physical characteristics to mine." Ryan spoke quickly, as if he wanted to get the words out as fast as possible before he lost his courage. "The child would be legally registered as my child, would be my legitimate heir before the law, and I would be able to keep the company in the family and honor my grandfather's legacy," he explained, carefully avoiding her gaze. "And the mother of this child? Who would be the mother?" Lily asked, although a part of her already knew exactly what answer he was going to give. Ryan looked at her with an intensity and vulnerability that made her understand everything before he even said a single word. "I was thinking of you." The words came out as a whisper loaded with emotion, but they sounded like a scream in the absolute silence of the room. "Lily, I trust you more than I trust anyone else in the entire world. You're the only person I know who would do this for the right reasons, without financial interest, without wanting to take advantage of the situation or blackmail me later." He continued, desperate to explain all the reasoning he had done. "Ryan," she began, but he raised his hand, asking her to let him finish saying everything he had rehearsed. "I know it's a lot to ask. I know it's a crazy thing, that it will completely change your life for the next 9 months. But I thought of offering a more than fair compensation for your time, for the sacrifices you'll have to make, for your generosity in helping me," he said, walking to the table where he had left an expensive black leather briefcase she hadn't noticed when he arrived. $500,000, paid in monthly installments of $55,500 during the 9 months of gestation. In addition, he will fully cover all medical expenses, including a premium health plan, which costs $2,500 monthly, consultations with the best specialists in Boston, routine and emergency exams, imported vitamins, supplements, in short, everything necessary to ensure a healthy pregnancy. Lily felt her legs go weak and had to lean against the wall not to fall. $500,000 was more money than she would earn in 15 years working as a public school teacher. It was enough money to buy her own apartment in a good area, help her parents who still lived in the simple house in Belmont and were getting old, do a specialization abroad if she wanted, have financial security for the rest of her life. "Ryan, it's a lot of money," she said, trying to process an amount she never imagined she would see in her life. "For me, it's not that much. If I lose the company, I'll lose much more than that. And besides, you deserve much more than that for what you would be doing for me," he replied pragmatically. "It's not about the money," she said, trying to organize the thoughts that were in a complete whirlwind. "It's that you're asking me to carry your child, to spend 9 months of my life growing a child inside me, and then have to hand them over to you and pretend nothing happened," Lily explained, feeling a strange pain in her chest that she couldn't quite explain. It wouldn't be exactly like that. It wouldn't just be handing over and forgetting. Ryan approached her again, carefully. "You wouldn't disappear from the child's life. You could visit them whenever you wanted. You could be part of their life, be an important presence. It would be like a very special and beloved aunt." "An aunt," she repeated, feeling the pain in her chest increase and become almost unbearable. There was the man she had loved in silence since childhood, the man she could never fall in love with anyone else because of. Asking her to carry his child, but not out of love, not because he wanted to form a family with her, but out of necessity, for business, for convenience. Ryan, have you ever stopped to think that maybe it would be better for you to try to find someone you truly love? Someone who wants to marry you and form a real family? She asked, knowing she was being masochistic by suggesting this, but needing to hear the answer. Lily, I don't have time to find someone, fall in love, date, get engaged, marry. My grandfather has at most 1 year to live, he explained, running his hand through his hair in that nervous gesture. And besides, I don't want to marry out of obligation, out of necessity. I don't want to bring a woman into my life just because I need an heir. It would be unfair to her and to me, Ryan replied. But wouldn't it be unfair to me? Lily asked, her voice cracking with emotion. With you, it's different, completely different. We've known each other forever, since we were children. You know who I really am, not just the rich businessman. And I trust that you would take good care of the child, that you would love them even knowing they wouldn't stay with you forever. Lily closed her eyes and tried to imagine what it would be like. 9 months carrying the child of the man she loved, feeling him grow inside her, talking to him every night, creating a connection that would be broken at birth. I need to think calmly, she finally said. It's a very important decision that will affect the rest of my life in a way I can't even imagine. Of course you need to think. Take all the time you need. Ryan approached and held her small hands in his. But Lily, you would be the most important person in my life if you agreed to do this. I will be eternally grateful to you, and I will ensure you never regret this decision. That night, after Ryan left, and she was alone in the silent apartment, Lily stayed awake until the sun rose. She thought about the boy she met at the park 15 years ago, the incredible man he had become, the love she had carried in silence for so long that it was already a part of her. And she thought that perhaps this was the only chance she would have to truly be a part of his life, to have a little piece of him forever, even if it was in a way no one else knew. On Monday morning, with trembling hands and a pounding heart, she called his cell phone. Ryan, it's me, Lily. I accept your proposal. Lily has accepted Ryan's unconventional proposal. What do you think is her true motivation for agreeing to this arrangement? Do you believe a deep emotional connection can form even in a convenient situation like this? Share your insights in the comments. The Thursday following that life-changing call, Lily found herself sitting in Sterling & Associates' law office, located on the 30th floor of an imposing building on Boylston Street, where every square foot was worth more than her entire home. The reverent silence was broken only by the distant hum of traffic below. So, Ms. Davies, Mr. Edward Sterling, a distinguished 55-year-old man with impeccably styled gray hair, suits costing $15,000, and an impeccable reputation among Boston's elite, meticulously explained each clause of the contract Ryan had prepared with utmost discretion and absolute secrecy. Let's review the main terms of this agreement. Mr. Sterling, Edward said in a professional voice, adjusting his $8,000 Cartier glasses and opening a genuine Italian leather brief. Mr. Ryan Sterling commits to paying the total sum of $500,000, divided into monthly installments of $55,500 during the 9 months of gestation. In addition, he will fully cover all medical expenses, including a premium health plan, which costs $2,500 monthly, consultations with the best specialists in Boston, routine and emergency exams, imported vitamins, supplements, in short, everything necessary to ensure a healthy pregnancy. Lily tried to pay attention to every word, but the numbers were so surreal and astronomical that her simple mind had difficulty processing those amounts. Ryan was sitting beside her in an Italian leather armchair, which probably cost more than all the furniture in her apartment, wearing a charcoal gray Brioni suit, worth $12,000. And she could smell the expensive and sophisticated Tom Ford Oud Wood cologne he wore, which cost $1,800 a bottle and had a woody, striking aroma that made her feel slightly dizzy whenever he was near. "Lily, do you have any questions about the clauses so far?" he asked gently and carefully, noticing that she was quieter than usual and seemed a little lost amidst so much formality and complicated legal jargon. "It's a lot of information at once," she replied honestly, looking at the thick 22-page document full of complex legal terms she could barely comprehend. "You will also receive a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment in the upscale South End neighborhood, a valued area of the city, appraised at $400,000, which will be definitively transferred to your civil name on the day of the child's birth, with all necessary legal documentation," Mr. Edward Sterling continued, turning the pages of the contract with precise movements. "Throughout the gestational period, which we estimate at 9 months, you will move into Marion Sterling's primary residence in Belmont, where you will have a fully furnished master bedroom with a private suite, a private living room, as well as unrestricted access to a specialized housekeeper, a private driver available 24 hours a day, a renowned nutritionist, a personal trainer specializing in pregnant women, and an on-call obstetric nurse for any emergency." The idea of living in Ryan's luxurious house for 9 whole months still made Lily nervous and anxious, but she had already mentally accepted all the changes that this would represent in her life. "There are also some important restrictions during the gestational period that need to be clarified and signed," Mr. Edward Sterling read in a firm, professional voice, as if accustomed to dealing with such contracts. "No alcoholic beverages of any kind, cigarettes, or any type of smoking, high-risk physical activities such as running or heavy weightlifting, travel outside the state without prior medical authorization, medications without a prescription from the responsible obstetrician." Each restriction sounded like golden handcuffs, but Lily understood the necessity. "And it is essential to clarify that the child will be registered as Mr. Sterling's legitimate child from birth, and Miss Davies will be listed as the biological mother in the documents, but will formally renounce legal custody and all parental rights, transferring them entirely to the father." This clause hit Lily like a violent blow to the stomach, even though she already knew that was exactly how it would work. Hearing it aloud, and officially made everything more real, more painful, more definitive. "Can I have a few minutes alone to process all this?" Lily asked, her voice coming out weaker than usual, feeling suffocated in that luxurious room, full of cold formality, complicated contracts, and decisions that would change her life forever. "Of course, Ms. Davies. I'll get some special Colombian coffee for you both," Mr. Edward Sterling said with refined politeness, discreetly leaving the room and leaving the two of them alone for the first time since they arrived. As soon as the heavy door closed, Ryan immediately got up from the armchair and approached her, holding her small hands with extreme care, as if she were made of the most fragile crystal in the world. "Lily, I know all this seems very formal, very cold, very commercial, but it's just to protect us legally, to ensure there are no future problems or misunderstandings," he said, his voice much softer, more affectionate, and more human than before when he was in the presence of the lawyer. "You know it won't be like that between us, right? You know I care a lot about you, that you're not just a business deal or an employee to me." "I know you care," she replied, but a confused part of her still wondered if he really cared about her as a person, or just because he needed her to solve his urgent problem. "It's just all so different from my simple, organized life. I never imagined I would live in a rich mansion, have a private driver, all these luxurious things that are normal for you, but completely surreal for me. You'll get used to it faster than you think, I promise. And remember, it's not forever. It's only 9 months of your life," Ryan said, squeezing her hands comfortingly and affectionately. After that, you'll have your complete financial independence, your own paid-off apartment, and you can do absolutely anything you want with your life. You can travel the world, study abroad, start your own school, any dream you have. The way he spoke made it sound as if he was planning to get rid of her after he got what he wanted. And that hurt more than she was prepared to feel. "And you? What will you do after you have your heir?" she asked, trying not to show how much that question tormented her. "I'll take care of the child, run the company, honor the family legacy," he replied. But there was something in his tone of voice that didn't sound entirely convincing. When Mr. Edward Sterling returned with the Colombian coffee that cost $50 a pound, Lily signed the contract with visibly trembling hands. Each signature seemed like a piece of her old, simple life, disappearing forever, being replaced by a completely new and frightening reality. "Congratulations to you both. Now we'll deal with the necessary medical procedures," the lawyer said with a professional smile, putting the important documents into a reinforced briefcase. Dr. Ben Carter, a renowned specialist in assisted reproduction at the Fertility and Family Center, is already waiting for you next Thursday at 10 in the morning for the first consultation and process planning. Leaving the office, inside Ryan's Mercedes-Benz S-Class, which cost $300,000 and had a genuine beige leather interior, they remained silent for long minutes, while Mr. Henderson, the 60-year-old driver who had worked for the family for 15 years and earned $4,000 a month, drove calmly through the heavy, chaotic traffic of Boylston Street. "Are you regretting it?" Ryan asked finally, noticing her thoughtful and melancholic expression as she looked out the tinted windows. "I don't know yet. It's all happening too fast. It's too many changes all at once," she replied honestly, watching the expensive and important buildings pass by the window, as if they were movie sets. "Lily, I want you to know one important thing. Even after signing the contract, you can change your mind at any time if you're not feeling comfortable with the situation," he said, completely surprising her with that statement. "Seriously? Even after everything is signed?" "Completely serious. I don't want you to do this if you're not 100% sure and comfortable. It would be unfair to me, to you, and especially to the child," Ryan explained, and for the first time since he made the crazy proposal, she saw a genuine crack of vulnerability and humanity in him. Lily has signed the contract, but Ryan offers her an unexpected out. What do you think this reveals about his character? And how do you predict Lily's feelings will evolve as she experiences the physical and emotional changes of pregnancy? Share your thoughts in the comments. A week later, at the Fertility and Family Center, located in the upscale Back Bay neighborhood, one of the most reputable assisted reproduction clinics in North America, Dr. Ben Carter explained the entire process of artificial insemination with the patience and professionalism of someone who had done it thousands of times over 20 years of career. The clinic cost $15,000 per attempt, and Ryan paid for 3 full attempts in advance, in case the first didn't yield the expected result. The procedure itself was simpler and less invasive than Lily imagined, performed in a sterile white room with state-of-the-art equipment imported from Germany. 2 weeks after the procedure, on a sunny Tuesday morning that started like any other, Lily woke up feeling a different, strange nausea, unlike anything she had ever felt in her life. She rushed to the apartment bathroom and vomited all the red fruit smoothie she had for breakfast. "Could it be?" she whispered to herself, looking in the mirror and touching her still flat belly. The next day, she took a pregnancy test at Precision Labs in the elegant Chestnut Hill neighborhood, accompanied by Ryan, who had canceled 2 important multi-million-dollar meetings to be present at that crucial moment. When Dr. Carter called them into the private room and said, "Congratulations, the beta HCG is positive. You're pregnant." With a smile on his face, Ryan looked at the test paper for long seconds, as if he couldn't process the information, and then looked at Lily with blue eyes shining with an intensity she had never seen before. "We did it," he whispered. And for a magical moment, she almost forgot that it was a commercial agreement. The genuine and emotional joy on his face was contagious, and she found herself smiling too, despite all the complications and uncertainties that pregnancy represented for the future. The following Saturday, Lily officially moved into the Sterling mansion on Maplewood Drive. The house was even more impressive and luxurious than she remembered from childhood. 3 imposing floors, enormous and perfectly manicured gardens that looked straight out of a magazine, a blue swimming pool that resembled a 5-star resort, and staff who moved silently to keep everything absolutely perfect. Her room was on the 2nd floor, decorated with classic furniture in soft shades of beige and gold. A king-size bed that was larger than her entire old apartment's living room, and a breathtaking view of the garden that took her breath away every morning. "Mrs. Henderson will take care of all your meals, always focusing on pregnancy nutrition," Ryan explained, introducing her to the cook, a friendly 50-year-old woman who had worked for the family for 2 decades and earned $3,500 a month. "Anything you want to eat, any strange craving, just ask her." "Thank you, Mrs. Henderson," Lily said, trying to be polite, despite feeling completely out of place in such a luxurious environment. "Oh, my dear child, it will be a pleasure to take care of you and the baby," the woman replied, with a genuine and maternal smile that reassured her a little. On the first night sleeping in the mansion, Lily dined alone in the formal dining room that seated 12 people, eating grilled salmon with asparagus that Mrs. Henderson had specially prepared, thinking about the necessary vitamins for pregnancy. Ryan was in an important business meeting that had extended very late into the night. The silence in that gigantic, quiet house was deafening and heavy, very different from her small apartment, which was full of life and laughter with Chloe. When Ryan finally arrived home, around 11 at night, he found her on the balcony of her room, looking at the stars and the full moon in the clear Boston sky. "How was your first day here?" he asked carefully, approaching her on the spacious balcony. "Strange. Everything is very beautiful, very perfect, very luxurious, but—" She paused, searching for the right words not to sound ungrateful. "But it doesn't seem real?" he completed, showing that he understood exactly what she was feeling. "Exactly. It feels like I'm living someone else's life, like I'm an actress in an expensive movie. You'll get used to it in time, and I'll try to be more present, I promise. I'm just sorting out some urgent company matters so I can dedicate more to the pregnancy," Ryan said. And there was a sincerity in his voice that made her believe he truly cared about her well-being and that of the growing baby. The first few weeks of pregnancy were more challenging than Lily imagined they would be. Morning sickness was constant and intense, lasting all day, and she even lost 6 pounds because she couldn't keep anything solid in her stomach for more than a few hours. Dr. Ben Carter, the renowned obstetrician Ryan hired, who charged $2,000 per private consultation, said it was completely normal, but prescribed some imported medications and special supplements to alleviate the most uncomfortable symptoms. What surprised her most was discovering how attentive and caring Ryan was, far beyond what she expected from someone who was just fulfilling a commercial contract. Every morning before leaving for work, he would gently knock on her bedroom door to ask how she had spent the night and how she was feeling. "Did you sleep well? Is the nausea better today?" he would always ask with the same genuine concern in his voice. And when she said yes, he would smile in a way that lit up his entire face. When she said one morning that she really missed eating warm sugar bread from the bakery near her old apartment in the North End, he sent Mr. Henderson to pick up 10 fresh loaves every day at 6 in the morning. When she commented that she missed talking to the children at school, he suggested that she work only part-time so she wouldn't get so tired and would have more time to rest. "You don't have to do all these things for me," Lily said one warm Thursday afternoon when he came home carrying a basket of organic fruits that cost $200 and which she had casually commented looked delicious in a magazine advertisement. "Do what?" Ryan asked, seeming genuinely confused, as if those affectionate gestures were the most natural thing in the world. "Take care of me as if I were special to you, as if you really cared about me," she explained, feeling vulnerable and exposed. Speaking so directly. "But you are special to me, Lily," he replied without hesitating for a second. "You've always been special, ever since we were children at the park, at the 12th week of pregnancy. During the first detailed morphological ultrasound, they discovered officially that it was indeed a healthy and perfect boy." "Leo," Ryan said immediately, as Dr. Carter confirmed the sex with absolute certainty, and Lily saw pure emotion taking over his face in a way that made her fall even more in love. Leo Sterling. That night, he came home carrying a special gift, a baby blue teddy bear that cost $300 from an imported store and had the name Leo lovingly embroidered on its chest. "For our boy," he said, placing the teddy bear carefully in her lap. "Our," she repeated softly, knowing it was dangerous and painful to get used to that possessive word, but completely unable to resist the good, warm feeling it brought to her love-struck heart. And in that intimate moment, with Ryan sitting beside her on the bed, animatedly talking to Leo about soccer and about how he would teach his son to swim in the large pool at home, Lily allowed herself to daydream about an alternative reality, where they truly were a united family, where the love she had felt for 15 years was finally, truly reciprocated, where Leo would grow up with both parents who loved him together forever, without contracts or commercial agreements between them. Lily is falling deeper in love, but is this a mutual feeling, or just Ryan's excitement for his future child? How do you think the blurred lines between their agreement and their growing emotional connection will impact them? Share your thoughts below. The months passed, and with each passing day, the thin line between the professional agreement and something much deeper and personal became more blurred and confused. Ryan canceled important meetings to accompany her to medical appointments, came home earlier to have dinner together, and always found an excuse to spend more time talking to her and with Leo. Lily began to notice that he looked at her differently, more intensely, more affectionately, as if he were seeing something in her that he hadn't noticed before. And she, who had already loved him for 15 years, felt her heart open even more to a man who was being more attentive and caring than any boyfriend she had ever had in her life. At 26 weeks pregnant, on a rainy Thursday night that started like any other, everything changed between Lily and Ryan in a way neither of them was prepared for. She was in her room, comfortably lying in bed, reading a book about child development, when she heard the front door close and his familiar footsteps coming up the stairs. It was almost 10 o'clock at night, later than usual, and she could hear by his heavy breathing that he was tired after a long and stressful day at the company. "Lily," he called, gently knocking on her bedroom door as he did every night. "Can I come in? I know it's late, but I wanted to talk to Leo before bed." "Of course," she replied, marking her page in the book and settling further into bed. When he entered, she immediately noticed something different about him. His suit was wrinkled, his tie undone, his hair disheveled, and in his blue eyes, there was an intensity she had never seen before. "Did something happen at work?" she asked, concerned by the strained expression on his face. "Nothing much, just some difficult meetings with investors," Ryan replied, sitting on the edge of the bed with a heavy sigh. "Lily, can I tell you something? Something I've never told anyone." The intimate and vulnerable tone of his voice made her sit up in bed, paying full attention. "Of course, You can tell me anything. Today, during the most important meeting of the day with Japanese investors who could change the company's future, I caught myself thinking about you," he said, looking directly into her eyes. "Thinking about how you were feeling, if you were eating properly, if Leo was moving a lot. And I realized this has been happening for weeks. I can no longer concentrate at work because my mind is here with both of you." Lily felt her heart race in a way that had nothing to do with pregnancy. "Ryan," she began, but he raised his hand, asking her to continue. "Let me finish, please, because if I don't say this now, I'll never have the courage," he said, running his hands through his hair in a nervous gesture. "Lily, when I made that proposal to you, I thought I would be able to keep everything professional, that it would just be an agreement between friends, something practical to solve my problem." He paused, took a deep breath, and looked at her with an intensity that made her forget to breathe. "But I couldn't. With each passing day, each conversation we have with Leo, each time I see you taking care of our child with so much love, I fell in love with you. Love." The silence that followed was absolute and charged with electricity. Lily looked at him, trying to process the words she had dreamed of hearing for 15 years. "Are you serious?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Completely serious. I love you, Lily. Not as the mother of my child, not as a friend who is doing me a huge favor. I love you as a woman, as the person I want by my side for the rest of my life." The words came out loaded with such intense emotion that she felt tears forming in her eyes. "Ryan, you can't say that now," she said, trying to protect herself from what she felt. "I'm 6 months pregnant, full of hormones, living in your house, depending on your money. Don't you think you might be confusing gratitude with love?" "I'm not confusing anything," he replied, approaching her on the bed. "I loved you before you agreed to carry Leo. I just hadn't realized it until you came back into my life." "What do you mean you hadn't realized it?" she asked, her heart beating so hard she was sure he could hear it. "Remember I said I always had the feeling of looking for something that only existed in the past?" Ryan asked, taking her hands in his. "I was talking about you. All these years, I was looking for you in all the women I met. But I hadn't realized it until you came back into my life, and I remembered what it was like to feel true happiness." "That's very convenient, Ryan," she said, trying to protect herself, even as her heart melted. "You find out you love me exactly when I'm carrying your child? It sounds like something you're saying to keep me happy until Leo is born, to ensure I won't cause problems or change my mind." She interrupted him, despite every fiber of her being wanting to believe him. "That's not it," Ryan said, getting out of bed and beginning to pace the room. "Want proof? Cancel the contract. Marry me. Let's raise Leo together, as a real family without agreements or signed papers." The proposal caught her completely by surprise. "What?" "You heard right. I don't care about the money, the apartment, any of that. I just want you and our son. I want to wake up every day by your side. I want to take care of you throughout your pregnancy. I want to be present in every moment of Leo's life." "Our son," she repeated, testing how those words sounded. "Since when is he our son? Until yesterday he was your heir to keep the company. He's always been ours, Lily, from the moment he was conceived. From the first time I put my hand on your belly and felt him move," Ryan said, returning to her side and kneeling by the bed. "I know I hurt you with this contract business, but it was the only way I found to have you in my life without risking our friendship. I was too cowardly to simply confess that I was in love with you since we reunited." The tears Lily had been holding back finally streamed down her face. "Ryan, she began, but he delicately placed his finger on her lips. "Before you answer, I need to tell you something I should have told you a long time ago," he said, his voice becoming even softer. "Lily, I never forgot you. During all these 15 years, I carried the memory of that curly-haired girl who made me laugh at the park. And when I saw you in that cafe, it was as if a part of me that was dormant woke up again. I never forgot you either, she confessed for the first time, her voice breaking with emotion. I've loved you since I was 8 years old, Ryan. I could never fall in love with any other man because everyone else paled in comparison to you. When you made that proposal, I accepted not for the money, but because it was the only way I saw to be part of your life, even if only for 9 months. The confession came out like a flood of feelings held back for 15 years. You love me? He asked, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Always. Since that day at the park, when you said we could work together forever. I love you so much it hurts, Ryan, she said, touching his face with her hand. I accepted being just Leo's aunt because I preferred to have a little piece of you than nothing. Ryan looked at her for a moment that seemed like an eternity, and then he leaned in and kissed her softly and affectionately, as if she were made of crystal. It was their first kiss after 15 years of waiting, and it tasted of happy tears and fulfilled dreams. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers. So cancel the contract with me. Let's do this the right way. You, and Leo as a real family. And what if it doesn't work out? What if you get tired of me after the novelty wears off? She asked, with the fears she had carried for so long. That's not going to happen. How can you be sure? Because I've loved you for 15 years, Lily. I just took too long to understand. And because when I see you taking care of Leo, when I see you singing to him, talking to him, I see my entire future. That night, after hours of talking about hidden feelings, old fears, and shared dreams, something definitively changed between them. Lily lay down on the large bed, and for the first time since she moved into the house, Ryan didn't leave the room. Can I stay here with you tonight? He asked, with a vulnerability in his voice that moved her. Just stay by your side. Take care of you and Leo. I want you to stay, she replied, settling to make room for him in the bed. They lay together, he over the covers to respect her space, and talked in the dark about everything and nothing. He told her about the nights he spent thinking about her all those years, about how he could never truly fall in love with any other woman. She told him about how she kept the photo of them as children in her drawer, about how she even dreamed of him marrying other people, and how that hurt her. Lily, he called softly when it was past 2 in the morning. Can I touch your belly? I want to feel Leo. She took his hand and placed it on her rounded belly, and as if he had been waiting for that moment, Leo moved a lot. I think he knows Daddy's here, she whispered. I think he approves of us being together, Ryan said, gently kissing her neck. The kiss on her neck turned into soft caresses on her face, which turned into more intense kisses, which turned into something much deeper and more intimate. Are you sure? He asked, when he realized where it was leading. I'm absolutely sure. I love you, and I want to give myself to you completely, she replied, pulling him closer. They made love that night in a slow, affectionate, and deeply emotional way, respecting her pregnancy, but connecting in a way that went far beyond the physical. It was the union of two souls who had searched for each other for 15 years and finally found each other. Every touch was a declaration of love. Every kiss was a promise of the future. Every gentle whisper was the confirmation that this was forever. When the sun rose the next morning, they woke up embracing each other in the large bed, with Leo gently moving in her belly, as if he were happy with the new reality. Good morning, my love, Ryan whispered, kissing her forehead. Good morning, she replied, still not believing it was real. Are you still sure you want to cancel the contract? More certain than ever. I want to be your husband, not your contractor. I want to be Leo's father, not just his legal owner. That morning they called Mr. Edward Sterling, asking for an urgent meeting to cancel all the commercial terms of the agreement. Are you absolutely sure about this decision? The lawyer asked, surprised. Absolutely, Ryan replied, holding Lily's hand. We want to get married and form a real family. And so, what began as a cold commercial agreement transformed into the greatest love either of them had ever lived, proving that sometimes destiny uses the most unexpected paths to unite two people who were always meant for each other. Ryan and Lily have found their true love and decided to build a family based on genuine affection. What do you think will be the biggest challenge for them now that the convenience aspect is gone? How might their family and friends react to their sudden shift from contract to true love? Share your thoughts in the comments. 3 weeks after that night that changed everything between them, when Lily was 29 weeks pregnant and getting used to the new reality of being Ryan's fiancée, and not just the contracted mother of his child, an unexpected call shattered all the happiness they had built together. It was a sunny Tuesday morning, and they were having breakfast in the garden of the house, planning the intimate wedding they wanted to have before Leo was born, when Ryan's cell phone rang, showing the name of Dr. Ben Carter, the assisted reproduction specialist. Dr. Carter, did something happen? Ryan answered, worried because they weren't expecting any calls from the doctor. Lily continued eating the sugar bread he had sent for every morning, watching his expression change drastically during the conversation. What do you mean, lab error? What kind of error? She heard him ask, his voice tensing. Mr. Sterling, it would be best for you to come to the clinic urgently. There's something very important I need to explain in person. The doctor's voice was loud enough for her to hear. An hour later, they were sitting in Dr. Carter's elegant office at the Fertility and Family Center, with Lily holding Ryan's hand and trying to control the anxiety growing in her chest. Mr. Sterling, Ms. Davies, I need to communicate a serious error we discovered when reviewing old medical records, the doctor said, with a serious expression that boded no good. The fertility tests you did a few months ago were swapped at the lab. The results indicating severe azoospermia were not yours. The silence in the room was absolute. Ryan looked at the doctor as if he hadn't understood correctly. What do you mean, not mine? There was a sample mix-up at the third-party lab we used at the time. Your actual test results, which we found today during an internal audit, show completely normal fertility parameters. You can have children naturally. You always could. Dr. Carter explained, handing him a folder with the correct exams. In fact, your values are above average for your age. We will process the lab responsible for the error, of course, and we want to formally apologize for the inconvenience caused. But Lily was barely listening to the apologies. Her mind was racing in 1,000 different directions, all leading to the same devastating conclusion. On the way home, inside the silent Mercedes, they didn't exchange a single word. Ryan tried a few times to start a conversation, but she only replied in monosyllables, looking out the window and processing the revelation that changed everything. Lily, are you okay? He asked when they arrived at the mansion. I'm great, she replied. But the cold, distant tone of her voice said exactly the opposite. I'm going upstairs to rest a bit. Lily, we need to talk about this, Ryan said, following her to the bedroom. I know the news was a shock, but it doesn't change anything between us. It doesn't change anything? She turned to him, her eyes shining dangerously. Ryan, you can have children naturally. You always could. That changes everything. What do you mean it changes everything? We love each other. We're getting married. Leo is coming. None of that has changed. Don't you understand? She said, sitting on the bed and placing her hands on her belly. You don't need me. You never did. You can find any woman, fall truly in love, marry, have as many children as you want. Tears began to stream down her face. I'm just a mistake, Ryan. A mistake that became convenient when you thought you were in love. You are not a mistake, and I don't think I'm in love. I know I am, he said, approaching her. How can you be sure? How can you know if it's real love or just gratitude because I solved your problem? She asked, moving away when he tried to touch her. Maybe you just fell in love with the idea of having a ready-made family, with the convenience of not having to look for anyone. Lily, you're talking crazy. I've loved you since we were children. No, you love the memory of a child. You fell in love with a convenient situation. That afternoon, while Ryan was in his office trying to resolve legal issues with the lab, Lily received an unexpected visit. Kevin Sterling, Ryan's cousin, appeared at the mansion door accompanied by Sarah, his executive assistant at the company. Lily, right? I need to talk to you about something very important, Kevin said, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Ryan's not here, she replied, trying to close the door. Actually, it's you I want to talk to, about the embarrassing situation you've gotten yourself into. What embarrassing situation? Didn't you hear the news that Ryan was never sterile? Sarah asked, with a sweet yet poisonous tone. We just found out today. I just found out, Lily replied, forcing herself to maintain her composure. Then you know he doesn't need you anymore, Kevin said, walking into the house uninvited. He can have children with anyone. In fact, Sarah here has always been in love with him. Now that you've served your purpose, perhaps it's time to exit gracefully. What are you implying? Lily asked. But deep down, she already knew where that conversation was heading. We're offering an elegant exit, Sarah said, taking an envelope from her expensive purse. $5 million for you to disappear from Ryan's life. Have the baby, hand them over as per the original contract, and vanish forever. He'll get over this little crush quickly once you're no longer here, reminding him of the mistake that was made. $5 million? Lily repeated, shocked by the amount. He'd never pay that. He doesn't need to know. I have an inheritance I don't use, Kevin explained. Consider this an investment in the family's future. You'll have enough money to live like a queen for the rest of your life, far from here. And Ryan will be free to find someone of his social standing, someone who truly matches him. You're crazy if you think I'll accept this, Lily said. But a part of her, the insecure part that had always existed, was listening to every word. Think carefully, Lily, Sarah said, approaching her. Do you really think a man like Ryan will want to stay with a poor little teacher for the rest of his life? He's confused now. But when the novelty wears off, he'll realize you have nothing in common besides a child. Get out of my house, Lily said. But her voice lacked firmness. Our house, Kevin corrected. This is the Sterling family house. You're just a temporary guest who's deluding herself, thinking she's become part of the family. He placed the envelope on the table. The money will be available until tomorrow night. After that, the offer expires, and you'll have to find your own way out. After they left, Lily stared at the envelope on the table, as if it were a bomb about to explode. $5 million. It was an amount she never imagined seeing in her life, enough to buy a big house, travel the world, give Leo a comfortable life if he wanted to visit her sometimes. And more importantly, it would be a way to free Ryan, to be happy with someone from his world. Someone who truly deserved to be by the side of such a special man. When Ryan came home that night, he found Lily packing in the bedroom. What are you doing? He asked, alarmed. I'm leaving, she replied without looking at him, carefully folding her maternity clothes. What do you mean leaving? We haven't even properly discussed this yet. There's nothing to discuss, Ryan. You can have children with anyone. You don't need to stay with me out of obligation. Obligation? Lily, I love you. This has nothing to do with obligation, he said, picking up her clothes and throwing them back in the suitcase. Do you love me, or do you love the idea of having a ready-made family? She asked, finally looking at him. Answer truthfully. If you had known from the beginning that you could have children naturally, would you have fallen in love with me? The question caught him by surprise, and the 2-second hesitation in his answer was enough to confirm her worst fears. "You hesitated," she said, her voice breaking. "You hesitated because you know you might not have noticed me if you didn't need me." "It wasn't hesitation, it's a complicated question," Ryan tried to explain. "It's not complicated. It's yes or no. Would you fall in love with a poor teacher if you didn't need her to carry your child?" His silence was more eloquent than any answer. "I'm staying at Chloe's until Leo is born," Lily said, resuming her packing. "Then we'll talk about his visits." "Lily, please don't do this. We can fix this situation." "The only thing that needs fixing is me, and I'm fixing myself," she replied, closing the suitcase. "You'll find someone better, Ryan. Someone who truly deserves to be in your life." "You deserve to be in my life," he said. But she was already going down the stairs with her suitcase in hand. "Lily, come back here. We need to talk about this properly." But she didn't come back. She got into the first taxi she found on the street and disappeared into the Los Angeles night, taking Leo with her and leaving Ryan alone in the empty mansion, realizing too late that he had lost the only thing that truly mattered in his life. Lily has left, heartbroken by Ryan's hesitation and Kevin's manipulative offer. Do you think Ryan can still convince her of his true feelings? What action could he take that would prove his love is genuine and not based on convenience? Share your predictions in the comments. At Chloe's small house, Lily cried until she had no more tears, hugged by her best friend, who tried to comfort her. "You did the right thing," Chloe said, stroking her hair. "If he really loves you, he'll come after you and prove it. And if he doesn't, then it just wasn't meant to be." But deep down, Lily hoped he would come, that he would prove their love was true and not just the result of convenient circumstances that threw them together. For the next 2 weeks, Ryan tried to contact Lily every day, but she didn't answer his calls or messages. He sent flowers to Chloe's house, gifts for Leo, handwritten letters explaining his feelings, but she returned everything without even opening it. At the company, he couldn't concentrate on anything, canceled important meetings, and spent hours staring out the office window, thinking about how he had let the woman he loved slip away because of a foolish hesitation. "Son, you need to go after her," Arthur said one afternoon when he visited his grandson at the office and found him completely distraught. "Grandpa, are you okay?" Ryan asked, trying to change the subject. "I'm dying, Ryan, but we're not talking about me," the elderly man said, sitting in the expensive office armchair. "Do you love that girl?" "I love her more than my own life." "Then stop being a coward and go get her before it's too late." At 33 weeks gestation, on a rainy Friday morning, Lily woke up feeling a strange and intense pain in her abdomen. "Chloe!" she cried, realizing she was bleeding. Her nurse friend rushed into the room and, seeing the situation, immediately called 911. "It's too early. The baby can't be born now," Lily said in a total panic. "It'll be okay. We're going to the hospital." Chloe tried to calm her, but she was also worried. At Massachusetts General Hospital, Dr. Carter examined Lily and gave her the diagnosis she most feared hearing. "We're going to have to deliver now. The placenta is detaching, and if we wait any longer, we could lose both mother and baby." "But he's only 33 weeks," she said, crying. "Babies born at 33 weeks have excellent chances of survival. Leo will be fine," the doctor assured her. "But I need to notify the father. It's essential that he be here." "Please call Ryan," Lily asked Chloe, realizing she needed him at that moment more than anything in life. "Tell him Leo is being born." Chloe made the call, and in less than 15 minutes, Ryan arrived at the hospital like a hurricane, still in his pajamas, hair disheveled, and eyes red with despair. "How is she? How's Leo?" he asked Chloe, who rushed him to the operating room. "Ryan?" Lily called when she saw him entering the preparation room, dressed in blue surgical scrubs. "I'm here, my love. I'm here," he said, taking her hand and kissing her sweaty forehead. "It's going to be all right. Our boy will be born strong and healthy. I was so scared. I thought I was going to lose him, she confessed, squeezing his hand. You won't lose him, and you won't lose me either. I love you, Lily. Nothing will change that. At 5:47 a.m. on a rainy Friday, Leo Sterling was born, weighing 5.5 pounds and measuring 7 inches, with tiny lungs functioning perfectly, and a strong cry that echoed through the operating room like celestial music. He's perfect, Dr. Carter said, showing the baby to his emotional parents. Small, but perfect and healthy. Ryan looked at his son in the doctor's arms and cried as he had never cried in his life. An intense mixture of relief, joy, fear, and a love so overwhelming that it physically hurt his chest. Hi, Leo. I'm your daddy, he whispered, delicately touching the baby's tiny hand. And this is your mommy, the bravest and most incredible woman in the world. We love you more than anything. Lily, still drowsy from the anesthesia, smiled at the pure emotion on the face of the man she loved. Leo stayed in the neonatal ICU for 2 weeks, in a modern incubator, surrounded by tubes and monitors that controlled every beat of his tiny heart. Ryan and Lily took turns at the hospital, always side by side, talking to Leo through the incubator glass, singing to him, reading children's stories. He knows your voices, commented Nurse Kelly, one of the specialized nurses. See how calm he gets when you talk to him? Lily, I need to tell you something important, Ryan said one afternoon, while they watched Leo sleeping peacefully in the incubator. About that question you asked, if I would have fallen in love with you, even without needing a mother for Leo. She looked at him, bracing her heart for another disappointment. I hesitated that day because the question caught me by surprise, not because I had doubts, he explained. The truth is, I was already in love with you even before I knew about the sterility, from the day we reunited at the cafe. What do you mean? Remember the 2 weeks we spent having dinner together before I made the proposal? I was already madly in love, but I was afraid of ruining our friendship, Ryan confessed. The sterility story was almost an excuse my subconscious found to keep you close to me. If I had known I could have children normally, I probably would have taken months to have the courage to tell you I was in love. Are you serious? She asked, her heart racing, completely serious. And I can prove it, he said, taking a small velvet box from his pocket. I bought this 3 days after our first dinner, weeks before I knew about the supposed sterility. I already knew I wanted to marry you. Inside the box was the most beautiful engagement ring she had ever seen, a 2-carat solitaire that glittered under the hospital lights. Lily Davies, will you marry me? Not because we have a child together, not because of a contract or inheritance, but because I have loved you since I was 8 years old, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving it to you. The proposal, made right there in the neonatal ICU, with Leo sleeping just a few feet away, was the most emotional moment of her life. Yes, she replied without hesitating for a second. Yes, I want to marry you. Leo was discharged from the hospital weighing 7 pounds and 7 ounces, strong and healthy, like any baby born full term. His arrival home was magical. Ryan had transformed the nursery into a work of art, with handcrafted white furniture, hand-painted wallpaper with clouds and birds, and a musical mobile that played the lullaby they always sang during pregnancy. Welcome home, my prince, Lily whispered, placing Leo in his new crib for the first time. The wedding took place 3 months later, in an intimate ceremony in the mansion's garden, decorated with thousands of white and yellow flowers. Lily wore a simple but elegant wedding dress from designer Sarah Miller, which cost $20,000, and carried Leo in her arms throughout the ceremony. Today, we are not just uniting 2 people in marriage, but celebrating the birth of a family that has been blessed by true love, the priest said, as the three looked at each other with infinite emotion. Arthur, who had miraculously recovered from cancer after an experimental treatment in the United States, held Leo during the party and told all the guests, "This boy is the future of our company. But more importantly than that, he is proof that love always finds a way to happen." During the couple's dance in the illuminated garden, with Leo sleeping peacefully in Grandma Helen's arms, everyone knew they were witnessing a true love story. 2 years later, on a sunny Sunday morning, Lily woke up feeling familiar morning sickness. "Ryan," she called, running to the bathroom. "What is it, love?" he asked, appearing at the door with Leo, who was crawling behind him. "I think I'm pregnant again," she said, showing him the positive test. But this time, naturally. Ryan picked her up and spun her around the house while Leo clapped his hands, not quite understanding the celebration. "2 children," he said, kissing her passionately. "Leo by destiny, and this one by nature. Both by love," she corrected, touching her belly, which would soon start to grow again. "Our family is complete." And it was. Leo grew up surrounded by love, becoming a smart and affectionate boy who loved playing in the same park where his parents first met. His little sister, Sophia, was born 9 months later, with her mother's brown eyes and her father's mischievous smile. At the company, Ryan became one of the most respected businessmen in the country, but he always made sure to get home in time for family dinner. Lily went back to teaching, now at a private school she founded herself, specializing in humanistic early childhood education. And every night, before going to sleep, they would pass by the children's room and silently give thanks for having found their way to each other. "Do you regret anything?" Ryan asked one night, as they watched Leo and Sophia sleeping. "Nothing," Lily replied, snuggling into his arms. "Not the contract, not the confusion, not the suffering. Because all of that brought us here, to our perfect family, to our forever love," she corrected, and they kissed right there in the children's room, knowing they had built something that would last for all eternity. In the end, what began as a desperate commercial agreement transformed into the greatest love story either of them could have imagined, proving that sometimes destiny uses the most circuitous paths to lead 2 soulmates to each other, and that true love always finds a way to overcome all difficulties. If you liked Lily and Ryan's story, give it a loving like. Subscribe to Eka Goes of Tomorrow so you don't miss any of our stories. And tell me in the comments, do you believe in love at first sight? Or that 2 people can be destined for each other since childhood? Share this story with someone special, because love that is shared multiplies. And always remember, never give up on true love, because when it's real, it always finds a way to happen. Thank you very much for joining me here, and may God bless each of you with much love and happiness. See you in the next story.